by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Shukadev Goswami begins this verse with the word tasmat, or therefore, because in the previous verse he has already explained that there is no auspicious means for salvation other than the sublime process of Bhakti Yoga. The Bhakti Yoga process is practiced by the devotees in different methods like hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping, praying, rendering service of love, becoming friendly, and offering all that one may possess. All 9 methods are bona fide methods, and either all of them, some of them, or even one of them can bring about the desired result for the sincere devotee. But out of all the 9 different methods, the first one, namely hearing, is the most important function in the process of Bhakti Yoga. Without hearing sufficiently and properly, no one can make any progress by any of the practicing methods. And for hearing only, all the Vedic literatures are there, compiled by authorized persons like Vyasadeva, who is the powerful incarnation of Godhead. And as it is ascertained that the Lord is the supreme, is the super soul of everything, he should therefore be heard and glorified everywhere and always. That is a special duty of the human being. And the human being, when he gives up the process of hearing about the all-pervading personality of Godhead, becomes victim to hearing rubbish transmitted by man-made machines. Machinery is not bad, because through the machine one can take advantage of hearing about the Lord. But because machinery is used for ulterior purposes, it is creating rapid degeneration in the standard of human civilization. It is said here that it is incumbent upon the human beings to hear, because the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. are made for that purpose. Living beings, other than human beings, have no capacity to hear such Vedic literatures. If the human society gives itself to the process of hearing the Vedic literature, it will not become victim to the impious sounds vibrated by impious men who degrade the standards of the total society. Hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. One who has perfectly heard from the perfect source becomes convinced about the all-pervading personality of Godhead, and thus becomes enthusiastic in the matter of glorifying the Lord. All the great acharyas like Ramanuja, Madhva, Chaitanya, Saraswati Thakura, or even in other countries, Muhammad, Christ, and others, have all extensively glorified the Lord by chanting always and in every place. Because the Lord is all-pervading, it is essential to glorify Him always and everywhere. In the process of glorifying the Lord, there should be no restriction of time and space. This is called Sanatana Dharma or Bhagavata Dharma. Sanatana means eternal, always and everywhere. Bhagavata means pertaining to Bhagavan, the Lord. The Lord is the master of all time and all space, and therefore the Lord's holy name must be heard, glorified and remembered everywhere in the world, and that will bring about the desired peace and prosperity, so eagerly awaited by the people of the world. The word Cha includes all the remaining processes or methods of Bhakti Yoga as mentioned above. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. So we are reading in this chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Lord in the Heart. And the previous few verses, Shukadeva Goswami has been speaking, and he said that how Lord Brahma, after studying all the Vedic literatures, 3 times he concluded that Bhagavan Brahma Kartsnena Triramikshya Manishaya Tadat Adhyavasat Kutasto Ratir Atman Yatho Bhavet. To attain Rati for the Lord is the highest principle that he has ascertained. And in today's verse, after saying all of that, Shukadeva Goswami is saying, Tasma Sarvatmana Rajan. He's speaking to Rajan, Parikshit Maharaj. And he's saying, therefore, Sarvatmana Rajan, with all of one's soul, or one's mind, one's heart, Rajan, Harihi Sarvatra Sarvada, Sarvatra, everywhere, and Sarvada, always. And one should do what? Harihi Shrotabhyaha, Harihi Kirtabhyaha, Harihi Smartabhyaha. Bhagavan Harihi. And who should do this? All human beings. Druna. So this is an important conclusion that Srimad Bhagavatam presents. In the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante ma buddha bhava samannitha. One who knows that I am the source of everything, aham sarvasya prabhava mattha sarvam pravartate, and everything is coming from me. This is the principle. I am the source of everything, and everything is coming from me. Iti matva, those who know this, what do? Iti matva bhajante ma, and they render service unto me, bhajante. And Buddha bhava samannita, and they are actually Buddha. Buddha means enlightened. That's how the word Buddha, because he became enlightened, sitting under a Bodhi tree. He was described as Buddha. So, iti matva bhajante ma Buddha bhava samanvitaha. Bhava means with full of feelings. Samanvitaha means full of. Bhava samanvitaha bhajante. And they are Buddha. They are the wise and enlightened people. So, this verse is important in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, because the search in the Vedanta is, what is the source of everything? What is the primeval cause of everything? And so in this verse Krishna is saying, Aham, I am that cause, I am the source of everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattha sarvam bhavantate. Everything is coming from me. So this is actually an answer, a reply to the question about, from the Vedanta, what is the source of everything? Because it's a philosophical question. A philosophical mind should actually ask this question: where has everything come from? How did it all begin? Where did I come from? We know we came from our parents. Our parents came from our grandparents. Grandparents came from our great-grandparents. And so on and so on. How did everybody come about? How did this world come about? Because we are all very dependent on this world. We live in this world. The earth produces all the food, air, the sunlight. All of these are very essential things for us, for our parents, for grandparents, all of them to have survived. So where did all these things come from? What is the cause? So this is an important query. And the Vedanta subject matter is about that. And this is considered Vedanta because this is the ultimate of knowledge. Ultimate. When someone is not ready or yet come to the ultimate of knowledge, then the human being will engage in questions about less important things. Less important things like, how can I enjoy more? Oh, I have all these things. If I can get more things, I can enjoy. I can have a better standard of life and enjoyment. So those are considered to be inferior questions. That's also part of the Vedas. Vedas give answer for that also. How you can have a good life, good standard of life. How you can have even better standard of life in Swargaloka. And in Swarga also there are many gradations. You can go to the highest standard of life. So those are answered in the Vedas. And those who very ardently follow that, they are called Vedavadaratha. And Krishna describes in the 2nd chapter of the Gita that they are all not very intelligent. So that's not the most intelligent thing. So there is something very, very advanced. And that is the Vedanta, to inquire about the source of everything, the cause of everything. And Krishna is declaring that Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattha sarvam bhavantate. I am that cause. Prabhupada often pointed out that although Krishna has so clearly explained that I am the source of everything, I am the cause of everything, and one who knows this worships me, still, even after reading Bhagavad Gita, people miss this important point. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, when he went to America, he took with him the Bhagavatam, we know. And he also took with him the Bhagavad Gita of Radhakrishna, Dr. Radhakrishna's Bhagavad Gita. For a long time, for a few years, Prabhupada would read and would talk, would give lecture on the basis of Radhakrishna's Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada said it's more or less okay, but not everything is okay. So devotees would also buy it from the store, and they would also read. And so for some time, that was the Bhagavad Gita that was there in ISKCON till Prabhupada brought it. And often Prabhupada pointed out that it may be okay, because Dr. Radhakrishnan was a scholar, and so he had written it very nicely, translated. But he didn't give too much commentary. Now and then he gave some commentary, and he gave sometimes Shankara's commentary. It's a mix. He gives Ramanuja's commentary. He writes, Shankara says this, Ramanuja says this, Matra says this. He had all three commentaries mixed in that volume. And Prabhupada often pointed out that how Krishna is saying, surrender unto me. But then there are commentators, even learned commentators like Dr. Radhakrishna, who say that no, there is something beyond Krishna that we must surrender to. In fact, sometime I came across this Radhakrishna's Gita and I was seeing the translation says, I am the source and all that. He is the source, everything. And then he is the supreme person. And after that, when he begins to, and he is with H capital, right? As we always write in English. And after a little while, he starts describing it with I capital. So how did that he become I, it? So he switches over from he to it, meaning, some kind of an impersonal, not a person, not a masculine person, something kind of he switches over to it with I capital, and he goes on like that. So people miss out this very, very important thing. And in this verse, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Mattha Sarvam Pravartate. And Krishna says a few more things after this, 3 more verses. After that, Arjuna says, Sarvam Etat Dhrutam Manye Mam Vadasi Keshava. That's why these 4 verses are considered to be very important verses. Just like there is Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, there is Chatushloki Gita, beginning with the verse Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Mattha Sarvam. These 4 verses are considered to be very important verses in the 10th chapter of the Gita. And hearing that, the way Arjuna responds, Krishna, whatever you say, I accept that as the ultimate, final truth. And you are saying this, not just that you are saying this, even the great sages have said this of you. Ahustam Rishayas Sarve Devarshin Naradastapa Asita Devanabhyasa Swayam Chaiva Pravish Sarvametat Prathamani Yanman Panasi Keshava. What you have described is Ratham Manye. I consider that as the truth. And Prabhupada points out that this is an example of how Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, should be accepted. Because Arjuna, Krishna is a perfect teacher and Arjuna is a perfect student. And how the perfect student understood this from the perfect teacher is important, so that we can follow in the footsteps of the perfect student. And so this statement is a guidance for us to explain how we should follow, how we should be the good student. And that is that we should accept everything that Krishna says as Sarvameta Vitham Manye. I accept everything as the truth. Sometimes Prabhupada also translated that as I accept everything as the gospel truth. Meaning gospel truth means is the highest truth, unquestionable, ultimate truth. So that was the way, that is the way Arjuna accepted. And that is the way we must accept, with confidence, with conviction, with shraddha, with faith, that yes, Krishna has said this. This is the truth. And that confidence and that conviction is actually a function of spiritual development. Someone is very, very spiritually developed, spiritually advanced, that conviction is at a very, very high level. In fact, Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Uttama, Madhyama, Kanishta, Bhakta is Shraddha Anusari. This classification is based on Shraddha. Somebody who has got very tender Shraddha, Kumala Shraddha, very tender, like a flower can be crushed So he's Kanishka. Madhyamadhikari has a slightly stronger faith, and he's well versed in the Vedic literatures. And that, because of the Vedic literature, the knowledge of the Vedic literatures, he's able to maintain his Shraddha. And Uttamadhikari means complete faith. It's very, very strong. Unshakable. Unshakable meaning he will never go away from this path. In fact, Prabhupada says that even Madhyama will never go away. If one has attained Madhyam Adhikari stage, one will not. Madhyama itself is irreversible conviction. In Komala Shraddha, it is reversible conviction. When somebody is in Kanishka, he will practice and then he will break the regulative principles. He will go against it. And then again he will struggle and become strong. And again Maya can overpower him. He will submit himself to sinful activities. Again he has to. So this struggle is actually in the Kanishka stage, where we have not developed the conviction. Just like suppose there's an electric wire, live wire is showing, and then red light is there. We won't go and touch that. Right? We know, hey, you get a shock. What is this? I'm not going to go and touch that one. Or if there is fire, you'll not go and touch the fire. You'll be careful. That's enlightened. Right? You know it's electric shock. You can get burnt. And that's enlightenment. In the same way, somebody who is not enlightened, then such a person commits mistakes and commits sinful activities and goes away, goes back into sinful activities. So that is an indication of enlightenment, and that is Shraddha. When somebody is very, very, you suppose there is an electric wire and you tell somebody, please somehow touch that one. So try it out. Say, no, I will not. Look at that red line, exposed wire. I'm not going to touch. In the same way, even if Maya tries to induce a person into sinful activity, someone who is very, very strong says, no, I will not. That's going to give me a shock. In the same way, if Maya tries to induce us into sinful activities, we'll stay away and say, no, I will not. So that is an indication of Shraddha. Krishna has said this. We will not. Ehi samsparshata bhoga tukka yonaya evate adyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. Buddha naramate. Enlightened people don't relish that kind of a pleasure. So I shall keep away from that. So a devotee, an enlightened person, an advanced spiritualist takes the words of Krishna very seriously. Sarvametat pratam manye yanmam vadasi Keshava. So this is the way we have to approach the Vedic literatures. And in this verse, aham sarvasya prabhavo mattha sarvam pravartate iti mattva bhajante ma. One who knows this, they render service unto me. Buddha bhava samanvitaha. And they are Buddha, they are enlightened. And bhava samanvitaha. And their bhavana is the emotions and the feelings. Samanvitaha. They are enlightened and they are full of feelings. And with that enlightenment and full of feelings, they serve me. Bhajante ma. That's why this is a very, very conclusive verse. And so from this, Prabhupada points out that someone thinks that if one is enlightened, Buddha, what happens? What will that person do? He will do bhajate. And that bhajate is bhava samanvitaha. And if it is bhava samanvitaha, one should not think that it is sentimental. It is full of knowledge and understanding. Buddha bhava samanvitaha. Enlightened person, and he will offer service unto Krishna with full of feeling. And so that full of feeling, we have to be careful. We should not, it is not some kind of a sentimental thing. And it is just sentimentally showing some kind of feelings or something. That is not considered very, very important by enlightened, by true acharyas. Sometimes in our parampara there have been examples of people because ashru, like tears flowing from the eyes. All of these are symptoms of that bhava samanvitaha. So sometimes people have exhibited those kind of things just to attract the attention of common people and get some praise for themselves. So that's not considered very, very important. That is, they have missed out the important point. So Srila Prabhupada said, instead of showing tears, we must show enthusiasm to preach, enthusiasm to serve Krishna and execute his mission. So that is the that's the bhava that we must, bhava samanvitaha, that is the bhava samanvitaha that we must show. And here, coming to this verse, it's very important. Tasmat sarvatmana rajan. Sarvatmana, with full of heart, rajan. Harihi sarvatra sarvada. Sarvatra sarvada, always, in every place, in every situation. The Lord must be heard, glorified, remembered. Always, in all places, in all circumstances. So, in all ways, sarvatra, shotavyaha, kirtitavyaha, smartavyaha. This is to be done always. That's what the Shukadeva Goswami's conclusive statement. Now, it's not just a random here and there. After he analyzed all those things, even Lord Brahma has studied all the Vedic literatures 3 times, very scrutinizingly, Manishaya, very thoughtfully, very intelligently. After doing all that, Brahma also concluded that becoming attracted to Krishna is the highest perfection of religion. And therefore, one should always and everywhere, sarvatra sarvada, Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smaratavya, Bhagavan Harihi, Nruna. So, Shukadeva Goswami is very, very emphatically saying that this has to be done. Now, this is such a beautiful concept that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings out. If you have to hear about Hari always, if you have to glorify Hari always, and if you have to remember Hari always, you see, always means unbroken in time. Sarvada means unbroken in situation and place. Right? It should be unbroken in time, and it should be unbroken in situation or place. That's why Krishna consciousness is not like how the karmis do. The karmis, karmis are actually believers of God. They are pious people. They are not impious. They are not like asuras. The karmis, normal people, generally, they get up in the morning, they have bath, and they always say, we have a puja room. I go into the puja room, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes even 15 minutes. Some very special, 1 hour. After they come out, they lead a life different from what they did for that 1 hour. That 1 hour was reserved for God. After that, I do many other things. So it is discontinuous. The puja, the worship was confined to the puja room. After the puja, we shut the door. And then we really shut the door to puja. Now my life is another life. So bhakti is not like that. Bhakti is supposed to pervade. So bhakti is not just what we do in the puja room, what we do in the temple hall, and then we come out of the temple hall, we do other things. Then that can be divorced from, disconnected from what we did in the puja. No, sarvatra, sarvada. That same sentiment of devotion and love and should pervade our lives always in every situation. So our eating should also be pervaded by bhakti. That's why we only eat prasadam, food that has been offered to the Lord. And our every activity also is pervaded by devotion because it is for pleasing the Lord. So that's how if somebody is working as a businessman, he can do his business nicely, but with the results, he must offer it to Krishna. That way the fruits are offered to Krishna, so the effort becomes related to Krishna. So in this way, his business also, bhakti is pervading his business activity also. So actually in this way, bhakti can pervade every facet of human action except sinful actions. Sinful actions are meant to forget God. So that's contrary to bhakti. But other than that, every action, suppose somebody is a politician, he can do bhakti in politics. If somebody is an artist, he can do bhakti in as an artist. Somebody is a musician, he can do bhakti as a musician. Somebody is a cook, he or she can do cooking, bhakti in cooking. He or she is a mother to take care of children. He or she can do mother or father's role, and bhakti can pervade that. I want to see that my child becomes a devotee. I want to see that the child eats prasadam, grows up in a nice environment, spiritual environment. So I must be a good example for my child. The child is watching me, so I must myself be a good example. In this way, parenthood can be pervaded with bhakti. Business can be pervaded with. That's why it's called sarvatra, sarvada. This is not something that it is a 5 minutes, 15 minutes puja room activity, and outside the puja room you can do something else. That doesn't. The puja I did won't flow into the rest of my life. No, the puja that we did is meant to flow into the rest of our lives, rest of our day, and rest of our lives at all times. So much so, even Kamosmi Bharadharshapha, Krishna says even sex life can be pervaded with devotion if sex is conducted only for producing a child and for bringing the child up as a devotee. So like this, there is nothing that is stale. All of the human activity can be pervaded with bhakti. This is the principle of Srimad Bhagavatam that Shukadeva Goswami is teaching. Unlike the karma is compartmentalized. In karma, life is compartmentalized. There is one compartment called devotion, religious activity. There is another compartment called my own pursuit of bhoga. The two things are compartmentalized. And when I am there, I do that. When I am here, I do this. You see, when I come into this compartment, I behave in a different way. I enjoy, lord over, do everything possible. And when I'm there, every day in the morning I do that. That's what people say. Right? We have heard about that. It's compartmentalized. Sarvatra Sarvada means there is no compartment. There is only one compartment, and that compartment is bhakti. And in that compartment only I do everything else, because my life is in that compartment. So this is the concept of bhakti. Another important thing is that Sarvatra Shrotavyaha, Kirtavyaha, Kirtitavyaha, Smartavyaha. This can happen, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu points out. Because Vedic literatures many times say this. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmaram yudhyaja, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Ananyas chintayanto mam yejana paryupasate. Ananya chitta, without any break. Always think of me. They worship me. Paryupasate, pariyupasate. All these kind of things are there. There are many, many statements in the Vedic literature. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu points out that this is actually possible. Unbroken meditation, always remembering this is possible. only when there is love. It's not a mechanical activity. Oh, now I must remember. Oh, I must again. Oh, I forgot Krishna. Now again I will remember Krishna for the next 15 minutes. So it is not that kind of an activity. Only when there is love, there is always thought of the beloved. And Prabhupada gives the example. Just like when a young boy has fallen in love with a young girl, he's always thinking of her, and vice versa. The girl does not have to say, at least, my boy, you are my boyfriend. At least 5 minutes you think of me. No, he's always thinking of her. That's the nature of love. When one is overpowered by love, you can't take off the object of love. So, Swarupa of the Jiva is to be overpowered by love of Krishna. And when one is overpowered by the love of Krishna, you can't take away Krishna from his mind. And that is what is Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smaratavya, Sarvatra, Sarvada. This is actually a very, very special revelation by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that when the Vedic literatures are talking about this, always meditate, always think of, always remember, always hear, always worship. It is actually meaning that you have to come to the platform loving Krishna. Because outside, other than loving Krishna, in every other situation, you have to struggle to do that always. You will spontaneously be always in touch with your beloved when there is love. So this is a very, very extraordinary revelation pointed out by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his immediate predecessor, Acharyas Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, they brought out this concept of prema and spontaneous prema. Because before that, the Acharyas had by and large emphasized Vaidhi, Vidhiyukta Bhakti, in a regulated manner, doing Bhakti. Because doing regulated Bhakti in a regulated manner is absolutely essential. Because when we do regulated Bhakti, we get liberated. And only when we get liberated, that Bhakti, true Bhakti begins, or Shuddha Bhakti begins. In the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, very nice, the whole 13th chapter is dedicated to, the 14th chapter is dedicated to the three modes of material nature. In the beginning of the 14th chapter, Krishna promises something. Param bhuyaha pravakshyami gnananam gnanamuttamam. Arjuna, Bhagavan Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Param bhuyaha pravakshyami. Once again I am going to explain to you. Bhuyaha again. I have already explained this earlier, but nevertheless I am going to explain this once again to you. Because sometimes you have to hear many things again and again for clarity, for emphasis, for more understanding, all of this. Param bhuyaha pravakshyami. I will now explain. Gnananam gnanamuttamam. This is the uttama gnana. Among all knowledge, this is the uttama jnana. I am going to explain to you this to you. Yagnatva munayaha sarva param siddhim itogataha. Even many, many great sages, having understood this knowledge, yagnatva, having known this knowledge that I am going to explain to you in this verse. Param siddhim itogataha. Again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained to supreme perfection. And then Krishna says, idam gnanam upashritya. Once you are under the shelter of this knowledge, idam gnanam upashritya mama sadharmyam agata. You will attain my nature, sadharmyam. Foolishly Mayavadi says, see, sadharmyam means you will become him. No, it's not that. Sadharmyam, dharmya means similar nature. Sadharmyam agata. Sarge po na upajayante pralayana vyatanti cha. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, idam gnanam upashritya, becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature, which is like my own nature. Sadharmyam agataha. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation and not disturbed at the time of dissolution. Sargepi na upajayante. When there is creation, you are not going to be born again. Pralayena yatanticha. And when there is pralaya, you will not be disturbed. So he said this, and Krishna begins to explain that sattvam rajastama iti prakriti guna sambhavaha, that the material nature is made of these things. And after describing all these things, then Krishna makes one statement. Gunanetanatityatreen dehi deha samadbhava janma mrityu jara dukkha vimukto amrutam ashrati. And after saying all of these things, Gunanetanatityatreen, when you have transcended the three modes of material nature, dehi deha samadbhava, gnanam janma mrityu jara dukkha vimukto, you will be freed from the misery of janma, mrityu, jara. These are actually three very big miseries that we should worry about. At least having born, we can forget the misery of birth. At least we are going to get old and we are going to die. And that experience, that's something that we should really be concerned about. Janma, mrityu, jara, dukkha, vimukto. How you will be freed from this one. Amrutam ashrati. And you will relish. The moment Krishna makes this statement, Arjuna jumps up and says, Krishna, you're saying that Gunanetan Atitya, you have to become transcendental. Arjuna vacha, Kairlingai Strin Gunan Eta Atito Bhavati Prabhu. What are the symptoms by which one will know that one has Lingai? Linga means symptoms. Indications. That's why that linga is an indication of Shiva. That's why it's called linga. Kairlinga is three gunanetan atito bhavati prabho. How will one know? Kim acharaha. If somebody has transcended the modes of material nature, triguna atitya, what is his behavior? Kim acharaha. Katham chaitam stri gunanati vartate. And how will one transcend? These are the questions of Arjuna. So, coming back to this, Gunanetanatitya, Krishna says that he transcends and he will be freed from the miseries of birth, old age and death, and he will relish and he will experience Amrutam Ashrati. That purport, Prabhupada concludes. It's a very nice conclusive statement in that purport. The purport ends by this statement. When one is freed from the influence of modes of material nature, he enters into devotional service. See, look at this. When one is freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, he enters it. If one is not freed from the modes of material nature, we have not yet entered devotional service. Very seriously. Just like we entered this hall and came into this hall. Some people could be just at the door, outside, not yet entered the hall. Right? In the same way, if we are not freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, we are not yet entered. He enters into devotional service. So, we are all serious about bhakti, right? That's what we are all here. We gave up so many things, family, all of that, to be a devotee. So, have we entered a devotional service? Have we entered the hall of devotion? If we are not freed from the influence of Raja, Sattva, Rajas, Tama, we have not yet entered. That is why Krishna said that I'm going to give you this knowledge by which you will become sadharmyam agataha. That sadharmyam is to be transcendental to the modes of material nature. Because Krishna is uninfluenced by the modes of material nature. We also have to become uninfluenced by the modes of material nature to establish contact with Krishna. Otherwise we cannot contact. So Vaidhi Bhakti is the process for becoming freed from entanglements of the influence of the modes of material nature. So that's very essential. But once you become free, now you enter. Then we enter into the devotional realm. So how important it is, Vaidhi, how important regulated devotional service is. Because it enables us to come out of the modes of material nature. So, we may talk about this. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that bhakti is the one by which you can sarvada, sarvatra, shrotavyaha, kirtitavyaha, smaratavyaha, by love. But that love will not come about unless we have become freed from the influence of the modes of material nature. When we become free, we enter. And after we enter, there are many more things we have to cross and then understand more aspects of bhakti. Then you intensify, and then you understand there are many levels of, many kinds of rasas are there. And all of those are very advanced topics. So, Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smaratavya, Bhagavan Runa. And another last important point of this I'll conclude is that all of this can be done by Runa, by a human being. We cannot get an animal to do Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smaratavya. Ordinarily, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that. He is the Supreme Lord, he can do. But at least we know as human beings are the ones who can take up this. Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smaratavya. So that's why actually this verse points out, that's why Prabhupada is making hints of those things in the purport. This Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smaratavya is not only in India, because it is sarvada, everywhere. So even in countries outside of India, this can be done. And this has been done in different ways by Prophet Muhammad and Christ. These are all very extraordinary things that Srila Prabhupada has pointed out. So don't think that the other religions are all having some other God, and my God, my religion, God of my religion competes with the God of their religion. There is no such thing. They are also actually glorifying the same God. There is one God for the whole universe. And that God is the source of everything. That's the Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Mattha Sarvam. Sarvam Pravartate. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. So, this is the kind of a very, very philosophically sound, very scientific, very beautiful presentation of Srila Prabhupada. Not in a very sectarian, not a sectarian method at all. Because this is the fundamental truth. Bhagavatam is bringing out that fundamental truth. That we are all related with Krishna in love. It's not a small statement, love. Just like when a child, mother loves the child, how the mother gives up everything to take care of the child, to protect the child. That kind of affection. And even that is manifest even in animals, lower species. You take away a small kitten from a cat, the cat will come running. You take away a puppy from a dog, the dog will come after you. They're very protective about that. So that is there in the song. There's one writer who wrote a book. What was that book? The title of the book was Made to Love or something like that. And then he analyzes and then he says that how actually this world, there is so much of love and it looks like we are all made to love. Actually, that's true. We are all made to love, and we are meant to love, and we have no other business but to be loving, but we should know the object of love. We usually miss out on the true object and settle down for some illusory objects of love. So actually, we are made for love. We are meant to love, or constitutionally love. And this was pointed out so nicely by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Bhagavatam is also established. We'll stop here. If anyone has any question, one question. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Ramananda ki, Sri Nitai Gauranga ki.